As you most likely already know, I love Half-Life style games, and we're starting to see more and more Half-Likes. Today I'm going to be covering another one, made by 6 Sense, a 3-person development studio. They contacted me a few weeks ago, describing Lonn as such. Lonn is a physics-based VR game like Boneworks, with story-driven campaigns like Half-Life Alyx in a cyberpunk world, with blade and sorcery arena modes, and parkour too. Okay, so you have my attention, but for only 3 people to make this game, that's an incredibly ambitious project. How'd it turn out? Hey, Jarek here. Don't ask me how a dragon wears a VR headset. Upon launching this game, I was immediately thrilled, because this game not only calibrates your height, but allows you to change your arm length, thank God. For people that have freakishly long arms compared to their height like me, I always come up short in VR games when I try to grab things. This is an option that should be mandatory in every VR title. As for the graphic settings, it's pretty limited to be entirely honest, but the game never crashed and mostly seemed to ran fine, so I can't complain. Let's talk about story, because while I love Boneworks as a game, its story presentation is a bit lacking. Lonn wants a gameplay structure similar to Boneworks, but it focused on story in a more Half-Life approach. There is an immersive world to be involved in. There are characters that you were supposed to get attached to. There's an antagonist that you want to defeat. So if one of your biggest complaints about Boneworks was, why am I doing anything I am doing? Lonn doesn't have that problem. Is it better than Boneworks? No, definitely not. I would say certainly not. But story-wise, it's a lot easier to follow. Here's where I will acknowledge that Boneworks does indeed have a story and lore, but it's very much so in the background. You play as a bounty hunter in the year of 2058. Dude has to be loaded to have an apartment like this in a cyberpunk world. Or, you know, any major city nowadays. Naturally, you would assume the story involves following this man collecting his bounties. But rather quickly you come across an underground cult.
Give to God.
I get a bad feeling about this.
Give to God. Wisdom is the only good, and ignorance the only evil. To become wise is to become godlike. Give to me. Give to me.
Is this what joining Scientology is like? Yeah, so this cult is definitely up to something sinister. However, to give up what their main goal is, what the whole plot of the story is, would require some spoilers, and I don't want to do that. This game only came out a week ago at the time of recording this video. All I will say is that the story is pretty engaging and rather solid until the end of the game, which kind of sucks. The end of the game is a to be continued, but not in a cliffhanger kind of way, just in a nothing gets finished kind of way. It feels like they're establishing the world, the characters, the story, the plot, all this stuff for the next game they're making. The whole story path is easy to take in, just the ending kind of sucks, but without giving any spoilers, I can't talk about much more, so instead I'll just focus on the presentation. Voice acting is a bit hit or miss. It's never bad enough to be cringy, but at times it's not good enough to not pull you out of the moment.
Great work, Lonn. I bet you partied in the club after that one?
You know me. Train hard, play hard, and party hard.
It is just good enough to make it work, but it will pull you out of the game every once in a while. On the flip side, there's some characters that have really good voice acting.
Hello! Please don't hurt me. I'm Nimbo, a high-tech personal shop assistant.
Personal shop assistant? What happened to your arm?
It was destroyed by droids. They're here now, everywhere. Can I help you with your shopping experience?
This is a reoccurring theme. There's a broad spectrum of quality in this game, but it never goes to be terrible or bad, just okay at worst. Most of the time, it stays around being pretty solid, but never quite reaches the height of, say, Half-Life Alyx, Boneworks, or even Vertigo Remastered. That's a bit unfair. Boneworks is a legendary VR game, Half-Life Alyx is made by Valve, and Vertigo Remastered is made by an ex-Valve employee. For a studio consisting of 3 indie developers, this is exceptionally well done. Just like the environments. This cyberpunk world is so good looking in your headset. This is where I really need to point out that VR doesn't translate to a flat screen well at all. There truly is no way to explain to someone what the experience of playing VR is, even just down to the basic visuals, without handing them the headset, so keep that in mind. Anyway, this cyberpunk world is very rich in detail, and I found myself wanting to stare out of every window I walked by. I could easily take in this environment just listening to the rain. And this music fits whatever mood or pacing the game is trying to deliver. In fact, I would love to listen to it outside of the game, however, I can't find it anywhere. It's not on Spotify, it's not even uploaded to YouTube. If the devs are watching, please at least upload the music to YouTube, because I'm sure people would love to hear it. It definitely added to my levels of immersion in-game. That is, until NPCs came around. Unlike the environment, the NPCs are...
Few patches of fog are also being reported. Pack your waterproofs, folks. It's a wet one out there.
Well, they could be a bit better. But this too is kind of all over the place. The actual NPCs that you are going to be fighting, the actual enemies, don't look anywhere near this bad. In fact, quite a few of them have their own unique animations. When it matters, in combat, in gameplay, these models are good enough with animations that aren't bad enough to pull you out of the moment. These dickheads, though, definitely will. They walk around in the home world, and for whatever reason, they're incredibly hostile. This is supposed to be a safe space, you have no weapons on you, and they keep attacking me for literally no reason. My friend and I affectionately started calling this woman the crackhead because she won't leave us alone. It would be a different thing if I walked up and punched them and started a fight, but no, you just have to go anywhere near them. I'm just trying to pet a dog, man. Leave me alone. I don't know if the goal here was to make them only attack you if you attacked first, or if you bumped into them and the AI just isn't good enough to do that, or if they're supposed to be hostile. But yeah, these specific NPCs in the home world don't look great, and they're kind of a mild inconvenience. If these NPCs were a one-off, you wouldn't think much of them, but every time you go back to the hub world, you will see them. Which A, can be annoying, and B, kind of pulls you out of the moment of this being this big cyberpunk world. Again, this broad spectrum of quality, the environments look awesome, but they don't quite feel entirely lived in. If I saw different NPCs every time I came back in here, or even more of them with maybe slightly better models, then this would actually feel like a real cyberpunk city, and not just a hub world. I'm perhaps being a bit too harsh. Again, this is only made by 3 people, and at its worst, it's really good eye candy. This is a unique problem to just the hub world. I didn't experience this anywhere else in the game. So how good are the graphics? Well, for a 3-person team, quite good. But it ultimately really depends on whatever moment you remember off the top of your head. For most of you, I imagine it will probably be staring off into the skyboxes in the rich, detailed environments. For some of you, it may be remembering Crackhead trying to attack you. Despite these downsides, the story and the graphics definitely get a passing grade. But that doesn't matter if the gameplay isn't good. So, how's the gameplay? I really can describe it as, if you liked Boneworks combat but wanted a Half-Life Alyx style story, you will like this game. The gameplay in this game is pretty similar to that of Boneworks. It is physics inspired with lots of climbing. That may have made you groan, because I see people complaining about climbing all the time when it comes to Boneworks, but it is significantly easier in Lonn. Now, I played a lot of Boneworks and Bone Labs, so generally I know how to climb things in that game, and it's not much of a problem. But in this game, it just kind of works. You don't need to manually lift up your legs with the right analog stick and just kind of hope that they end up underneath you somehow when you're climbing on top of something. The game automatically does this for you. If you reach up and grab something and pull yourself up, you're just going to be up there now. And it avoids the awkwardness of just kind of teleporting to the top of a ladder like some other games do. Climbing has been significantly improved, and that is incredibly important because there is quite a bit of it in this game. Every once in a while, you'll come across a dream-like level. These levels are relatively short, and the focus of them is not combat, it is climbing. So if this wasn't improved from other VR games, it would be a really big problem. Thankfully, it doesn't have that jankiness you have to figure out, it feels intuitive. This game also tried to improve on the holstering system that many VR games use. There are some nice quality of life features here. If you hover your gun over your holster, a check mark will pop up so that you know it can be holstered. This is really nice, it makes holstering a lot easier. With that said, I do have some complaints. For starters, while this game does have index support, it doesn't have proper support for the controllers. There is no individual finger tracking. If you grip the controller, it's just all grip or nothing. Now this may sound like not much of an issue, but I found myself not letting go of things when I let go. It's almost like my hands are sticky. Not like that. I mean, when I go to holster something and let go, it's still holding on, so when I move my hands away, I instead drop it in front of me. I feel like this is a uniquely index problem at the moment, and they did say they are working on finger tracking, so this will probably be fixed in the future. I also have a really big problem with the hip holsters. The location of them makes it really easy to accidentally grab your guns when you're trying to climb things. This gets really annoying. On top of that, if you look down and turn your head, it will turn your whole body, making holstering things a pain at times. If I look down and I turn my head, it should not turn my whole body. That should be a combination of the analog stick, my arms, and my head. On the flip side, it was much easier to unholster things when I was crouched, which is practically impossible in Boneworks, so they got some things right, they got some things wrong. As for the actual gunplay, it's quite a bit more ambitious than Half-Life Alyx. In Alyx, you only had one-handed weapons and you had no melee at all. For me, this was a really big disappointment. In Lonn, you get 4 different guns and melee weapons. Let's start with the guns. The first gun you get is a pistol. You'll probably not use this one for long, it gets eclipsed by all the others. The next one you get is a one-handed SMG. The next one you get is an awesome one-handed shotgun. And the final gun you get is the only two-handed weapon in the game. But at least it has one. This is a two-handed laser assault rifle. All of these weapons felt rather satisfying, and as you would expect them to. I really don't have any complaints about the gunplay, it works as intended. But to make things even better, you get a sword that can reflect back their lasers, and this is awesome. This means you can hold the sword in one hand, reflecting the lasers back and shooting at them with a gun in the other. This made me feel like a total badass. The sword will even continue to reflect projectiles while it's on your back. It doesn't just block your back, it's like that sword is still there on your back reflecting projectiles. Because it's a physical item you're holding on your back, and that's awesome. As for the sword play, you can stop enemies with swords from hitting you by clanking with their sword. Though I generally found the most effective thing to do is just to stab them. But when it comes to melee without any weapons, it's pretty dang jank. As in, significantly janker than Boneworks. It just seems like enemies don't react to me punching them, and you can also take damage without it really moving you, but then the enemies can also push you around. It feels very weird. Thankfully, you're not really required to ever do this, it's just an option. You are pretty much always going to have a melee weapon on you. But there's one more final weapon. An incredibly clever weapon that I really enjoy. I don't remember what they're actually called. I'm gonna call them the gravity gloves, because that's pretty much what they are. These gloves are a mixture of Boneworks' pull function and Half-Life 2's gravity gun. If you hold your hand out to an object and press the grip button, you'll pull that item into your hand. If you hold your hand out to an item and press the trigger, you can push it around with your hand. You can pull it towards you or push it further away, it's actually pretty intuitive. However, if you hold your hand out to an item and press both the grip and trigger, picking up the item and then let go, this works like the gravity gun where you just punt the item. As you would expect, this is really satisfying, and apparently you can cut off enemies' arms and limbs. I didn't know that for the longest time. Now actually punting the items works off energy, that's what that blue bar is on your arm. However, there's so many recharge stations throughout the map that this is not really an issue. And you only need that energy to punt items. You can still pick things up and move them as you wish without energy. So yeah, these gloves are awesome and I really enjoyed them. It also makes exploring the environment so much nicer when you don't have to crouch down and pick up everything throughout the map, which you're going to be doing a lot in this game. Exploring the map is important because you will find credits throughout the map, and getting these credits will allow you to buy more guns, so you're going to want to find them. As for the enemies, they're actually quite varied. There are your more typical human-style enemies, a few with swords that'll run at you, and then a few with weapons that will just shoot at you, as you would expect. There are heavier enemies with more health, with stronger guns. These are typically mini-bosses. But then there are the drone-style enemies. These typically are very annoying in most games. However, with the ability to reflect their lasers back thanks to your sword, they're actually quite fun. Almost feels like I'm playing Star Wars or something. And then of course, this wouldn't be a Half-Life inspired game without some sort of a headcrab. These aren't anywhere near as fun as the headcrabs in Boneworks if I'm to be entirely honest, but they are still a nice addition. It will never not feel rewarding to quick pull your shotgun and blast one out of the air. And of course, that comes with all the melee stuff you can do with them and everything else. So, is Lonn worth your money? Well, I'd say yes. Part of me only wanted to sing praise for this game when I made this video. It was made by 3 people, and this is a very ambitious project. However, I would also much prefer to talk about the negatives along with the positives to let people know the full picture. And even then, the positives far outweighed the negatives. I enjoyed my time while I played this game. Did I enjoy this game as much as Boneworks or Vertigo? No. But did I not enjoy this game? No, this game was a lot of fun. This game will last you roughly 7 hours, so a full-length game for $30. But there's also other modes. There's a full-on parkour mode. This mode is exactly what you would expect, a time trial parkour mode. And then there's the arena mode, which I didn't think anything of until I played it. This survival mode has an awesome arena. There are multiple levels, you can climb on so many different things, you have many different guns and items you can use. Overall, this is exactly what a survival mode for a game like this should be. There's even some stuff hidden in the environment. Like that stuff up there, I didn't figure out how to get up there, but I didn't necessarily try for too long, but there's something hidden up there. I want to know what it is. And also I want to know how to get up there. Needless to say, for $30, a 7-hour game with extra modes like this is 100% worth your money. We can always use more Half-Likes, and we can also always use more VR games. I applaud this studio because again, for only 3 people, this had to have been many years and years worth of non-stop work. I'm happy to say that even though some aspects of this game are a little rough, overall the full package works out. So this game is an absolute recommend.